Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. So today I thought I'd try something different. I've been thinking a lot about my past few videos and my thoughts on tarot and things like that. And I keep coming up with stuff that I want to discuss. That I want to clear up with regards to the tarot, and that has to do with a lot of things because obviously, as a person of a certain upbringing and how do you say uh, academical background, right? I wouldn't say intellectual because I don't know if I consider myself quite there yet. Um, I still try to justify in my mind why I'm even using the tarot. The tarot or the cards or whatever you want to call it. And there have been some other things going on in the back of my mind. I've told you some of them on my previous video and stuff like that. But obviously, I don't want to burden you with my day-to-day life and gossip and stuff like that. And obviously, I don't want to expose myself, so that's not a good idea either. But on the other hand, I think it's a good idea to talk about this because I feel there's a lot of misconceptions about what the tarot is online and in people's minds. Um, and I still feel like I need to not to justify, but to explain, to clear up these misconceptions, right? Because I've tried to be mindful about my use of the tarot. I do have my doubts about it. I'm a skeptic, like like everyone else. That's also why I made the video about secular tarot and stuff, because I want people to know that that's important to me, and I want to be able um, to make this a practice that people can recognize and can. I'm not saying that I'm trying to sell anything, but I do want to help people, and I do think that it helps me, right? And I'm serious about this. I'm not asking for anything for these videos either. Obviously I wrote a book, and you'll have to, if you're interested in that, you'll have to buy the book. That's how that works, unfortunately. But at the same time, I offer my readings so far, at least. I offer them for free, and if anyone wants to, you know, I'm not. I have a job. I'm not in a hurry to make a business out of it, but I do want to help people, And if someone wants to give me something for it, then that's fine. I don't have anything against it. But I also want to explain that I'm not. I'm not pretending to be psychic or something like that. I don't like people who sell their services like that and pretend to be psychic and things like that, and pretend that the cards have anything special about them, like in a supernatural way, because I think the value the cards have is perfectly natural. There's nothing supernatural about it. You could call it metaphysical, but that's a lack of understanding as well, right? But it is, in a certain way, I believe it follows the rules of physics, and you could call it quantum whatever, or I don't know. But so instead of trying to prove that to you, though, because I don't think that's necessary or important, and I don't think I have what it takes, I can't do the math. I just speak out of my own intuition or my own instinct about what the cards are. And to illustrate that, today on a whim, I got some extra money from a friend, and who still owed me. So that's all good. And I had the luxury to order some drinks and stuff like that, and he also ordered some food for us, and it was an interesting evening. I might get to that, I might not. But like when I was placing my order, I was browsing on the for some drinks. So I was browsing on a how do you say, an alcohol store, So I ordered a beer and some wine, nothing special. But so I was like, okay, and then there was like a minimum price for free delivery. So I was like, okay, let's look what they have. So they had a category for card games. So I bought this one. I bought the Golden Trophy #1 poker deck by Mondiano, and it's 100% plastic. So it's honestly my first plastic deck. And I was sort of skeptical at first, but that went over really quick because this deck just feels absolutely amazing. So I was like so happy with this weird little purchase I made. And so when my roommate came back, we hung out. He offered to buy some food, and I read some cards for him. So I went through multiple decks, but we started with this one, and we went through like 3 or 4 readings with this one, just on the spot. I decided to do some cartomancy without a tarot deck, and just draw some cards and see what they tell me. And they are honestly they're honestly very interesting. But listen how they shuffle. It feels like. Okay, I'm still not perfect at it, and now I'm getting, but you saw me do it, But so they're plastic, and they have a special weight to them. They're a little bit heavier in total than a paper deck, than a cardboard one, and they just feel so nice. I mean, they don't have the linen finish, which I would have preferred. They're more like a grainy finish, a little bit, but nonetheless, it's not bad. And then, but the figures are kind of interesting. At first, I wasn't so sure, and like the proportions of the suits are also kind of weirdly spaced sometimes, and a little bit. But they grew on me really fast, and like the readings that I got out of this thing were like super clear. I was like, huh. And obviously after that I did go back to the tarot, and I got the same results more or less. But honestly, this feels amazing. And so what I was thinking about, and what I wanted to talk about in while I'm doing like something like a review, because that's kind of like a nice little excuse for me to make a video, and I can talk about whatever I like. So that's what I like to do. And obviously this is just a pack of cards, so there's nothing special about it. I've got an ace of spades immediately on the front. But they just feel like a breath of fresh air right now. It's amazing. But so, I was thinking the past few days about, and, because I made a video a couple of days ago again, and, I keep thinking about stuff that I forget to mention in my videos, which again I don't mind, because that's another excuse to make another video. So that's how you do it. That's how you keep inspired. I work the same way with my poetry. So and what I wanted to talk about was like how the tarot was originally a game, right? And people say that as if that is a refutation of its divinatory practice. And that's something I've talked about before on this channel. And it's something which I will talk about again, because there's so many aspects to this that I don't know if I can cover it all. But just to get to the punch, I feel like the fact that and that's why I wrote my book. The fact that tarot started out as a card game, or maybe, it's the fact that it was a card game in a way was a disguise for what it really was. But at the same time, what it really was, no one could really tell, because they just an abstract pack of cards. So you can make any game out of it you like, right? And so making a divination game out of it, it only stands to reason, you know, that that would happen. So, so I don't know, you know, I think what I'm trying to say is that the tarot is a game. You know, it's a you know, you know, what is a game? You know, a game is a simulation of various aspects of reality. You have war games that simulate war. You have I don't know. Most games like simulate like certain transactions or maybe certain you know other you know it could be a game like who gets somewhere first, or like it could be a betting game, like what are the odds that someone is going to play these cards, or something like that, you know, like poker is. But simulations are in a way, you know, they are a form of divination, you know. Or maybe you could put it the other way around. Divination is a form of simulation. And obviously I don't like using that word because that has the implication that it's something supernatural, but it isn't. You know, you just ask a question, how do you say? You assign certain values, certain parameters, which are the cards in this case, and you analyze those parameters within the context of your question. You know, and you look at how can I relate to this? What does this what can I learn from this? You know, they're hypothetical scenarios that you can run. And you know, for me there's also no problem in, because people say, yeah, you shouldn't do too many readings, stuff like that. I mean, yeah, like to some degree that may be true, especially if you believe what you're reading, right? If you believe it's about the future and stuff like that. But like if it's just a discussion that's going on between you and the cards, in the same way as it is a discussion in your mind, you know, in a way, I think through tarot or through cartomancy, we externalize those thoughts and we're able to relativize them. And just test them against each other and things like that. So, and so I got this deck, and it just confirmed what I felt, you know, because it's, you know, it's not even a tarot deck. It's just a normal deck, and it just, because the way it feels, because the aesthetic it has, you know, and that combined with some beers and stuff like that, you get like, you start, you know, these faces are almost like how do you say, like optical illusions. You know, it's kind of like they're shifting because they're not entirely symmetrical, so they're a bit weird. They have like a weird kind of, it's like those lines are moving around, you know, they're like mandalas. And I honestly, but then you have the Joker that is completely different suddenly, you know, stuff like that. The kings are pretty impressive as well. Like, honestly, I like this deck, even though some of the faces are a little bit strange. But it's also, you know, I think, you know, the feel of shuffling the deck, the all these things, I think are important in getting into the mind space of doing a reading, you know. And I'm surprised that a bunch of plastic cards can feel so nice. So I might actually, you know, experiment with that, because I saw some tarot, some plastic tarot decks on Amazon as well. Although they're Rider-Waite Smith, so I'm not really crazy about them. But honestly, that's amazing, you know. And they're basically indestructible. They're super clean. They smell a little bit funny, but that's, I think that's gonna go away with time. And I don't know, like for some reason their simplicity just really appeals to me. I think I forgot a card. Oh yeah, I did. 6 of spades. And I still get to have to get to I have to get used to them because they're a bit slippery. But that's the only drawback. But yeah, so I did like a lot of readings for them. I'm not gonna go through them. I'm trying to maybe get the reading here now, but I don't think that's gonna be necessary either. I'm just kind of playing around with them and seeing if you get any ideas, Ah, we got the Joker. Interesting. So 9 of hearts, 3 of spades, struggle, difficulties, so stuff like that. But I also think like street, that's another thing. Like I'm trying to think of ways to destigmatize the swords and the spades suits, and and not in the sense that three of spades isn't like sorrow or disappointment or heartbreak or pain and stuff like that. But I think the spades have gotten a bad rap, and I think when you approach the tarot as a game or the playing cards, and you're just trying to make, you're making scenarios, it becomes much more amicable, And I think the spades are just basically trials and overcoming them, and they can be very positive, but in a transformative sense and in a in the sense that you're fighting, that you're struggling, but that you're making progress. I think, and that's what because the spades are traditionally associated with the warrior class, with the nobility, with the knights, right? And the knights have certain ideals, and they're warriors, so yeah, their lives are gonna be pretty tough, because they're gonna have to deal with killing people and being killed and putting their lives in danger and stuff like that, But there's a code of honor to it, and I think the cards reflect that, and I think that's what we've forgotten. Because I think, it's been inundated with witches and with well, look, I don't want to be mean, but it's been a very much women-centric thing, cartomancy, tarot, and stuff like that. And when I look on YouTube, the most male tarot YouTubers are usually gay. Like there's like 3-4 of them off the top of my head that I know that are out there, and I know there's more of them. And I'm not saying that's bad necessarily, but I do think there's a masculine aspect to this as well, and I think it's good that we explore it, because I see the tarot as a weapon. I see it as maybe maybe I should say as a tool, right? But as a tool in the sense that it's like a hammer, or like a scalpel. It depends on the deck. So because this one I think is like a scalpel, or like a something like that. Anyway, it's kind of tough to explain because it's still new for me, this one. Ooh, 3 clubs, 2 of clubs, king of clubs, queen of clubs. Interesting. So this could, look, I mean, you could see this very simply, right? We need an alliance between the male and the female archetypes, the divine masculine and divine feminine in the tarot. And I'm perfectly happy with that. But I think it's time for I think it's time to look at the warrior aspects of the tarot as well, And I think approaching it like a game and being like, how do you say, maintaining a sense of skepticism, or like, how do I say this? A sense of distance, with the cards, and not taking it so seriously. They're just they're just cards after all, and you can play with them, and you can experiment. The seven of spades. I always like to, when I do a spread, usually I do like 3 cards, maybe I draw a 4th one. And then I like to turn the deck around and see what comes at the very end. Because for me, every shuffle is like a whole timeline, right? So if you have the cards in order and you don't know which is which, you have a whole potential timeline in your hand, and then you could potentially spread the whole deck out, and it would still be the same. How do you say? Sequence of events, up to the very end, which is then the final card. So what I, instead of looking at every card, sometimes I like to kind of go through it, but I like to turn the deck around and see what comes at the end, to see what this, and that's what I mean. So those are all potential timelines. Those are all simulating certain events, in your mind, potential events, and you can take a slice out of it and simulate that, and leave the rest open, or you can just start laying them all out if you'd want, with every shuffle. But yeah, that's also why it's important to shuffle the deck thoroughly, and that's why, I believe riffle shuffling is the way to go. I like to combine the two, obviously, but I now that I've learned it, I'm addicted, and especially with this deck, holy moly. Oh. But honestly, maybe I should take back some of the things I said about the quality of tarot cards, and also about what I said about the Thought Tarot. It's a pretty nice deck. It's still a pretty nice deck, and it was my first deck, I should say, the Thought Tarot, and I can prove it to you, because it's just, it's just very clear, actually. And I actually like the fact that it has the keywords, and, but it's interesting to have these decks to combine them with each other, to combine like the traditional tarot cards with the plastic deck, and with the playing card deck, and getting a feel for these different levels of quality. Let me show you my Crowley deck, because I don't think I've showed my original Crowley deck before on camera. I've showed the little one. But yeah, so, as you can see, it's filthy all around. So I've used this for years, But honestly, like riffle shuffling it is pretty nice. I think my hands are now... No, it's okay. It was a pretty good shuffle. Yeah, I like to do this. But yeah, so what I think is even these occult decks, stuff like that, you can just use them for, if you approach it as a game, you can just use them like that and just see what comes up and how you react to it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Even though Crowley was a bit of a bastard, at the same time, Lady Frida Harris's art style is also a major contribution to the deck, if not bigger than Crowley's. But obviously you do see elements from his philosophy in there and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know. I digress. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is, the fact that tarot is a game is not a bad thing, It's exactly what makes it tick. And being able to explore that freely and not having any preconceptions about it. And personally, I come from an RPG background, as you can see probably. Wait, this way. And I play old school Renaissance games and stuff like that. But I tend to approach tarot in a similar way, you know. And the bad cards like the spades and stuff like that, they're not really that bad because it means you're fighting, you know. It's a combat phase because you're playing a role playing game, and we just, you know, and that's you know, I think instead of like being afraid of the cards, they could, you know, give you an adrenaline boost, you know, or they could make you feel things, and you can just try them out. But so yeah, that's also what I'm trying to achieve with my book, you know, because you now have a goal to strive for, you know, and I think that's, you know, because you're trying to make the best poker hand. So tarot as a game is I think if nothing else, is a good practice. And so I stand also by what I said about playing cards, you know. It is a good idea if you're into cartomancy and tarot to start with playing cards. Or if not to start, because I can understand that it might be a bit advanced for some people, because there's no pictures here and stuff like that. But honestly, there's something to be said for starting out, you know, jumping into deep waters, you know. Because honestly, I think starting out with the Rider-Waite-Smith is just going to give you trouble, honestly. And I mean, it's not exactly fair because I started out that way, or I didn't start with the Rider-Waite-Smith, I started with the Thought Tarot. Maybe the Thought Tarot is a good place to start as well, you know? Because it does expand your mind a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. I do think, you know, I don't think it's sufficient to talk about secular tarot. You know, I don't think that helps because you end up with relativism. But approaching it pragmatically is a different story, right? And just saying it's a game, and I can experiment with my thoughts and just see what happens, you know? 6 of clubs, 8 of hearts, Ace of hearts. And it's funny too, because the 8 of hearts I always see as a marriage, you know? Ace of hearts, you know, obviously I'm discovering a new appreciation for the cards, right? And I'm trying to be more objective. That's also why I'm trying different options. Because I think the playing cards have something... There's something about them too. You know, I've been harsh on them before because I thought the tarot was superior. But I like their humbleness. You know, I like their... the tarot is a bit pompous sometimes. Especially like the bigger decks, you know, the Crowdies and the Rider-Waites. The Marseille is a bit more of a storyteller, you know, so it's a bit more. I mean, I love it. I still think it's the best tarot, but it's, you know, it can be a bit detailed. Well, again. Oh, I forgot another card. Okay. Oh God, that's embarrassing. Usually what you can do though, because that falls again in the sequence, right? So this one could have been left behind for a reason, and now it tells me something new about my spread. So yeah, anyway, I think I'm gonna cut this short. I've said my piece. Look, I think there's something to what I'm saying, right? The stream of thought. I don't have a script or anything, and you know, sometimes I try making one. I usually do it through PowerPoints because that helps me concentrate a little bit better. But I do like to improvise with stuff. But sometimes I feel it's important to reflect. You know, as I said in the last video, I think that's what the tarot is primarily for, and approaching it as a game, I think, makes it all a lot easier and a lot more Another Joker. Interesting. A lot more digestible, I guess. You know, because we play all the time anyway. You know, we play video games. We play with our phones. We play with our feelings. So yeah, food for thought. Hope you enjoyed this semi review. If you if you want my opinion, here you go. The Modiano Golden Trophy number 1, 100% Plastica. I recommend, honestly, for readings. It's there's something to this. There's something about this, you know. It's a very, very nice deck, and it has, you know, I keep, because it's such a pleasure to shuffle, I keep constantly coming up with these numerical, you know, these pairs and stuff like that. Here, another 8 and another 10, you know, and I mean, obviously all these cards are in here, right? It's not like they're going anywhere, and that is such a big coincidence, but for some reason this deck makes me pay attention to those things. It's a very simple deck. It's just the cards and the numbers and the suits. So it just speaks to me directly, and I find that fascinating because I haven't. Maybe it's just a psychological thing or something, but I haven't had that with any other decks before. This is the first time I'm experiencing this with just a random deck that I. No. Okay, I'm not fair. I've had that with the Fournier decks as well. I've had that with the Tarot Marseille, the colored one. If you remember, I can show you. Which, by the way, also shuffles like a dream. But this deck is so amazing. I love it. Right? And it had the same thing, but that was last year, so that was a while ago, so maybe I didn't remember. Right? And they're about, you know, they're a bit bigger, but they're still about, in a way, they're still about playing card size, you know? Now I think my hands are a bit too slippery. I've also noticed that, for example, it works better, like the first way down, works better when I grab it by the corners. Like this. I should have gone a bit closer. Sorry, that's awkward. But yeah, it happens sometimes. But like when I grab it by the corners and let it go like that, it goes smoother, right? And then I get a better result like this. And I can push them in. Let me just one more go, because I'm an addict. That's like. There you go. Beautiful. I just had to get used to it a little bit because I had been shuffling the other one so much. Ooh, 5 of cups. So yeah, so that one was an example. We got the death card here. Make of that what you will. Yeah, I'm not doing the readings anymore. Well, I'm doing them, but I'm not, because I'm thinking about a lot of stuff at the same time. I should maybe edit that stuff out. It's never gonna happen. I'm not editing my videos. So, and I had that one and the Spanish tarot. You know, I already used this one, so I'm not gonna shuffle it now. But you know what I mean, right? This one also shuffles really nicely. So, you know, to me that's important. Turns out because I just learned riffle shuffling recently. Just like 4 weeks. So I'm really, really proud of that. Because it's a fun thing to do. But yeah, this deck is special, guys. Anyway, for me, you know, I don't know if it's gonna work the same way for you. Maybe it's just the day and the timing that I decided to get it. But it's just, you know, it's just perfect for what it's supposed to do, you know. So yeah, hope that was helpful. Hope you'll consider getting my book, you know, because I'm presenting a gamified system to experiment with the cards. And hope you'll start experimenting yourself. You don't have to get my book. There's other ways to do it as well. I'm sure you can think of something for yourself. You could make a roguelike or an RPG or whatever out of it. Do it before I do it. Right? But I think that's the future of tarot. and of playing cards. We can learn a lot from games, and we're learning a lot from games. And you know, all this diversity culture has inundated all our other spaces, but we can still, maybe we can take some space back, you know, in our minds, in our imaginations, with our cards, in our private time, and with our friends. And sorry, that was a bit mean, I guess. We are looking for balance after all, but I believe we're looking for justice, you know? That's what the spades tell me. The spades are about tragedy and justice and being true to yourself. So that's what I believe in, and that's what the cards are for me, you know? So yeah, I hope that helped. And I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully, by the end of the week, I'll have another review for you ready. See you.